Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm your host, Rebecca, and I recap live trials so you have something to listen to while you're crafting. Now, if you're not a crafter, you are certainly welcome to listen to these trial recaps. I show off the crafting on my lives. The lives I have are Wednesday at 7 p.m., Sundays at 11 a.m. If you want to drop in there, then you can see all the crafts that I do. These are just some of them, the diamond paintings. I also do crochet, watercolor painting, loom knitting, coloring, adult coloring, I don't know, cross-stitching, everything. I'm a serial starter. Anyway, and on Sunday nights, I do game night. Yeah, where I play, currently playing Legends of Zelda on my Switch. So today is part 2 of the state of Arizona versus George Kelly. Now, George Kelly is a rancher. He moved with his wife down from Montana because she got tired of the cold, and they moved down to Arizona, about 1.5 miles from the border. They built this gorgeous home, have a beautiful ranch, have horses, cattle, that kind of thing. So on January 30th of 2023, they are having lunch, and they hear a gunfire, single shot. They see their horse. He's been spooked, and he's running at full speed. So they leave their house. They go out of the house, and they see a group of men armed with AK-47s traversing his property. Now, he said that one of them, he tells his wife to go back in the house. He's got his AK-47. One of them points an AK-47 at him. Now, he says these men they're dressed in camouflage. They've got large backpacks, and they, for all intents and purposes, these are drug smugglers, probably. I'm betting that's what it was. So the cartel, they have like lookouts that they put out into, along the trail, and they look out for Border Patrol. And when Border Patrol's not around, these drug smugglers are crossing the border and coming through to the U.S. I think if they come in the way that they were coming through Arizona, their goal is to end up in Phoenix and distribute the drugs. So he sees them. This guy points an AK-47 at him. So he takes his AK-47. Everybody gets an AK-47. And fires it. This is his version, over the heads of these guys. Then he goes back into his house. They flee. They start running. And he goes back into his house, and he calls the ranch handler. There's a ranch handler that's kind of the liaison between the ranchers and the Border Patrol and the police and the troopers and everybody. So he calls the ranch handler, and the ranch handler sends out Border Patrol. And Border Patrol canvasses his property, and they do not find anybody. They're looking for these men. They don't find anything. They leave. Later that night, George, who's 75 years old, by the way, he goes out to check on the horse, because the horse got spooked earlier in the day. He wants to make sure the horse is okay. So he goes out, and he's checking on the horse, and his dogs that are following him, they're alerting to something. They're over, above him, away from him, and they're circling. They see something. So he goes over to see what they're looking at, and he sees a body on the ground, obviously deceased. And he puts his flashlight there near the body so he will be able to find it again. And he goes back, and he calls this ranch liaison, who calls 911 and has 911 call George to get all the information. And then they send people out. And next thing you know, George is in jail, and he's charged with second-degree murder. And I might add, while he's in jail, he was getting threats from other prisoners, AKA the cartel. So they had to isolate him. This poor 75-year-old man. So he actually he got released on bond. Thank God. So here's what happened yesterday in the trial. The first day we had opening statements. Yesterday, well, I got to tell you, there was no court on Monday. Tuesday, I don't know what's going on with the Long Crime channel, but I'm really getting kind of ticked off at Long Crime. I go to watch the footage for day 2, and they start with a cross-examination of one of the investigating officers. I'm like, well, where's the direct testimony? They started like an hour late. We didn't get any of the direct testimony, and I'm totally lost. I have no idea what they're cross-examining this guy on. Here's what I gleaned from the cross-examination. The attorney asked him, is there any reason, if you were canvassing this property, why you wouldn't have found that body? And he's like, no, there's no reason. We should have found that body. They didn't find that body until that night when George found the body. And there were no drag marks like he'd been drugged there from somewhere else. No. That body was, the victim was Gabrielle Suen Botimi. I can't say these Spanish names. Botimia. And he's got a little history. He's been known to have entered the U.S. several times, and he was last deported in 2016. So he had been shot in the back. The bullet went through him and has never been found. Went in the back, out the front, never been found. So we don't know whose gun it came from. We don't know if it came from George's weapon or somebody else's weapon. George said he heard a shot. Yeah, so interesting. Now, where was I? Okay, so yes. Oh, so that's what I gleaned from Tuesday's testimony. So yesterday, the key witness, Daniel Ramirez Valero, takes the stand. And this testimony was all day long. All day long. And he doesn't speak any English. So we had to listen to a Spanish interpreter. So trials, first of all, are very boring. And I don't mind sitting through them to recap for you. I really don't. But this was painful because the prosecutor will ask a question. Then the Spanish interpreter she's writing it down. Then she, and he'll go, sí, no, all day long. And this man was not the brightest bulb in the drawer. I will tell you that. He had a wattage of about 20. The prosecutor starts off by asking him to spell his name for the court reporter. He can't do it. Doesn't know how to spell, apparently. And the guy's like, oh, no, never mind. We got it. God. Yeah. So even before we get to this part where he takes the stand, the day starts off on Wednesday by the prosecutor informing the judge that the first witness of the day has a security concern. And the judge is like, wait a minute. What? And he's like, well, I just need to tell you that the witness is going to take the stand. And they weren't saying his name. They were saying Dr. Daniel Ramirez. Dr. is concerned for his safety. He does not want to appear on camera. And the judge is like, this is a public proceeding, and you're telling me 5 minutes before a witness takes the stand that he doesn't want to be seen on camera. You couldn't have told me earlier so I could go look up the case law and make a decision. And he's like, I'm just telling you what this guy's telling me. So the judge says, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then I'll come back and give you my decision. 5 minutes later, literally, usually when a judge says 5 minutes, he means 20 or 30. He comes back in 5 minutes, and he's like, okay, I have weighed the interest of the public seeing a public trial versus the security concerns that your witness has. He says, first of all, you could not articulate to me what the security concerns were because he couldn't. The prosecutor couldn't. He just didn't know what they were. I know what they are. You know what they are. It's the Mexican cartel. They're going to kill his ass when he gets back to Mexico. But he wasn't going to say that out loud. So the judge says, listen, he is a Mexican citizen. If he has concerns for his safety, he needs to address that with the Mexican government. Because what I gleaned was happening here is that they know where he lives in Mexico. He's a victim. George is also charged with second-degree assault for pointing the weapon at this guy too, because he was one of those men. He was with what's that guy's name? Again, hold on. What is his name? Gabrielle, the deceased. That was his friend. So he says, the Mexican government is in charge of taking care of him, but what they know his address, so they notified him that he was going to be a witness to this trial. So he goes to the Mexican checkpoint, I guess is what you call it, or I don't know. One of the jurors actually pointed out that a checkpoint is different than the point of entry. So I don't know where he went, but he was escorted by the police, the Border Patrol, to court. He shows up at the border. They escort him to the courtroom. He takes a stand. They escort him back to the border. That's how he got there. So he did not want his face shown. Well, the judge says, this is an open court. Anybody can walk in and see it. The jury can see him. Everybody can see him. And this is not a closed proceedings. I'm not going to close it for this guy. Too bad. So sad. So the guy takes a stand. And he said that he has traveled back and forth from Mexico to the U.S. many times. And why? Why have you done that? Because I want to find the American dream, which is such a cliche. What is the American dream? What are you talking about? It's just something that they're trained to say. I'm looking for the American dream. Where were you going to find the American dream? In Phoenix. Now, if I'd known that, I would have moved to Phoenix, but I'm still looking for the American dream too. Anyway. Okay. So couldn't spell his name. He said he's from Honduras. At the age of 13, he came to Mexico. So he's now a Mexican citizen. He has family back in Honduras, but he now has family in the U.S. And he says that every time he crosses the border, and he has tried to get to Phoenix 10 times. 10 times. Now, he didn't say over what period of time, but many years. I'll tell you what I suspect was going on with that. He left Honduras because of poverty and lack of work. So he gets to Mexico and he's doing odd jobs. And I'm gleaning that he does construction, masonry is what he said he does. He says he lives on a ranch. He's not married. He doesn't have any children. And he says he's not part of any drug organization, nor is he part of any cartel. Do I believe him? No. He says, I do not smuggle guns and I do not bring drugs into the United States. Okay. And he says each of the 10 times that he crossed the border to come into the U.S., he got caught and deported. That's some really bad luck. So what I suspect is going on there is that he's only telling us about the times he got caught, that this guy is a drug trafficker. And I'm going to go out on a limb. That's just my opinion, but I'm going out on a limb and say this guy is a drug smuggler. And he's only telling us about the 10 times that he got caught. And only one of those times he got caught with drugs, marijuana. Now, why are they smuggling? See, I'm so naive. Why are they smuggling marijuana into the country that already has marijuana? Is theirs better than ours? Or I don't get it. Anyway. But he tells the prosecutor that each time he goes to the border. He pays $2,500, and he pays that to a guide who takes him across the border. Now, on cross-examination, she went into this with a bit more detail. She said, okay, how do you find this guide? He goes, well, you just go to the border and you find him. So do you bring cash? You bring $2,500 in cash every time you cross that border, each of those 10 times, $25,000. That's a lot of money. Yes. Where'd you get that money? So then he tells the jury that his family in the U.S. sends him the money. This guy has a 6th grade education. He cannot read or write English. He can read and write Spanish. I will say that a lot of the questions he did not want to answer, anything that was related to drug smuggling, the drug cartel, that kind of thing. He'd say, I don't understand. Even if when it was interpreted in Spanish for him, I don't understand. Or I don't know. So he talked about this. So she went into more detail. So she says, so you show up with this $2,500 in cash. And she goes, what were the size of the bills? He's like 20s. And she says, that's a pretty good stack of cash. He goes, yeah, I had it in my pocket. And you just give that to some guide you find hanging out at the border, and he takes you across? Yeah. How many people were with you that day? 8. So he was the 9th. No, I think they landed on a total of 8, 9 including the guide. He said he didn't know any of the people that crossed with him except for the deceased. What was his name again? I don't remember. I still don't remember his name. Oh my gosh, I can't find it. Gabrielle. Yeah, he says he met Gabrielle on one of his jobs, one of his construction jobs. So they show up and they go to the end of the wall. So the wall that Trump was building ends in Nogales. And after that, it's just fence, and they just have to jump the fence. So they jump the fence and they come into this country. So he said that's what they did. And he was wearing camouflage. The victim was wearing camouflage. Their backpacks were camouflage. Okay. Everybody just happens to have a camouflage backpack. Okay. And he had 6 liters of water in his backpack. No guns, wasn't armed. He said nobody was armed. No, none of us were armed. So he said we were walking along and we come to a road and we see Border Patrol coming. So we all hide till Border Patrol passes, and then most of the group runs forward towards the U.S. He and Gabrielle, the victim, run back. And as they're running back, he says, we were running for maybe 15 minutes and then we got tired and we stopped. And then he says, we didn't have any water. And on cross-examination, she's like, you had 6 liters of water. Oh no, when I saw the Border Patrol, I took all the water out of my backpack and left it there so we could run. So she's like, so you saw Border Patrol, and before you started running, you took the time to take water out of your backpack. Yeah. So you had no water. Well, I had a little bottle of Gatorade. So apparently when they made the stop, it was on George Kelly's property and they were drinking water out of a trough. And she's like, what happened to the water, the Gatorade you had? Oh, I already drank it. Okay. Did you, so he describes that there was a house on one side, there was a horse. He described the horse. And he said this guy shot at him. or they heard gunshots, and he said maybe 8, 10 gunshots. And Gabrielle grabs his chest and said, "I'm hit." And when he did that, he said he starts running. "Did you take anything out of Gabrielle's backpack before you started running?" "No, I didn't. I just started running back towards the border." So he runs all the way back to the border. He said he didn't cross the border. He just hid because he didn't want to be found. And he said, "I just began vomiting. I vomited the entire night." But then later on, he admits that he was vomiting before, right after they were running, he was vomiting. This was before the gunshots. So, and I will add that when Gabrielle's body was found, he was wearing tactical boots. I just glued my notebook to the diamond painting. Hold on. Oh, God. Well, it's not paper, it's plastic, but it's still stuck there. Okay. He was wearing tactical boots and had a radio. Now, if you're crossing the border to go find the American dream, why are you wearing tactical boots, camouflage backpacks, and carrying a radio? Just saying. And these jurors, they're smart. They're going to see through this guy's testimony. There's just no way that this guy has any shred of credibility. I'm just trying to go through my notes, see if I missed anything here. So this was the other thing that frustrated me about Long Crime yesterday. After my live last night, I said, I'm going to sit and watch the rest of the testimony. And I'm watching, and because of the time difference, they were still live. After my live was over, they were still live. And when the live ended, now I wasn't caught up. I was still trying to hear the rest of the testimony. The Long Crime just shuts the video off and takes it down. What? Now, I did notice it was back up this morning, but I don't know what they're doing on that channel. I don't know what they're doing. There's no moderators in the chat. It makes no sense to me. So I'm just trying to see if I got everything about his testimony. Oh, so also on cross-examination, this attorney, she was smart. She's like, "You said your name was Gabrielle." Oh, no, that's the victim. He said, "You said your name was," what was his name? Oh my God, these Spanish names, I can't keep track. Daniel Ramirez Valero. Yes, that's my name. "Well, when you testified previously," because he gave some testimony previously, "you said your name was Daniel Ramirez Alvarez." And he's like, "So which one is your name?" "Valero, that's my name." "Well, where did you get Alvarez?" He goes, "Well, when I came into Mexico, that's what they put on my ID." What? So when you testified previously and you were asked, "What is your name?" why didn't you say Valero? Because that's not what's on my ID. What? Okay. He was also asked, have you ever tried to enter the U.S. legally? No. Did you know you could do that? No. Now, he admits that he didn't pay the $2,500 every single time. He said if he got caught, then they would try again. So, and he did admit that one time he got caught with drugs, instead of the $2,500, he had agreed to take drugs. And that was the only time he's ever crossed the border with drugs. And that was back in 2014. Now, I suspect that he and Gabrielle are drug smugglers, and that's what they do for a living. He only got caught 10 times and deported, but he just put his camouflage on and his tactical boots on and went back and did it again. How many times did he get away with it and not get caught, right? Just saying. Anyway, so I will keep following that trial the best I can, despite Long Crime's inconsistent coverage of this. And it's not being covered by Court TV. Court TV is covering the other case that I'm recapping for you, that's the Beverly McCullum, fugitive wife case. So, which I will update for you tomorrow. So have a great day, everybody. And please, if you have questions about this case, leave them in the comments and I will research them. I'll get an answer for you if I don't know the answer. And I will see you guys tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye, everybody.